on your socials. So with that, let's get started. Good morning, everyone. Thanks a lot for joining in. I know 9:30 is an early start for a user group session. Generally, we do all our events or all our meetings at 11 a.m. But I think it is a good idea to do this first thing in the morning. Also because I think we have about 90 minutes planned for this, but we may or may not use the entire 90 minutes. And this is two-part series that we are starting off with. So today is the first session of the two-part series, which is the overview of the entire business technology platform. The second one, we are going to talk about the art of the possible. Now, the question is, why do we do these sessions right now? So if you actually look at where we are going from a strategy point of view, where SAP is going from a strategy point of view, you will find that there is a significant amount of importance that BTP is going to play in the overall strategy. Rajeev will cover that as well as we go along in the session. But it is important for various reasons that you understand not only what the capabilities of BTP are, but also the importance of the platform itself. The more and more we look at cloud transformations, which is moving to the cloud, the more it becomes important that you keep your core clean and you move all your customizations and all your additional developments on the cloud on BTP. Why? The question is why, right? So for any organization to really respond well to the world that we are living in, which is changing super fast and at the edges, is to have a stable core, which is which takes care of all your regular day-to-day transactions, and at the same time innovate at the edges, which is where you will find both new opportunities as well as the challenges coming in. And what a platform like a business technology platform allows you to do is just exactly that, which is to have your core transactional system stable, which is either ECC or S4, preferably S4, hopefully. But at the same time, allows you to do a lot of things at pace and in an agile manner using the various services that Rajeev is going to talk about. So just that framing. So my only request to you is threefold. Number one, please keep everything that you hear from Rajeev, keep one thing in mind. If there is a particular issue, or if there is a particular challenge, or if there is a particular opportunity that your organization as a strategy is going after, keep that in mind in the background and look at everything that Rajeev says from the lens of, will this or how will this help me address what we are trying to do in our organization? So instead of just looking at this as a update on product or technology, if you keep that filter in mind, when you look at this, you will find that the applicability of what Rajeev is going to talk about is going to increase multifold, so that the time that you spend here with us will be that much more impactful for you as well as for your organization. So that's number one. Number two is please do interact, ask your questions, post your comments, share your thoughts, share your experiences, primarily on the chat. If you feel comfortable, if you like to speak up, use the reactions button to raise your hand, and I will call you out so that you can then unmute yourself and ask your question. So that's okay as well. But the idea is, if you can keep use this raise hand feature, we can actually avoid talking on top of each other. So that's the second thing. And the last thing is, as usual with everything that we do, I think let's have some fun as we go along as well. So with that framing, Rajeev, can I ask you to quickly introduce yourself and take it away?
Sure. Thank you, Mukesh. Good morning, everyone. A warm welcome from my side as well. Friday morning, 9:30. I know it's difficult. And also special thanks for all the people who are joining from the north. Hope you're all safe with all the rains we are hearing in the news. Hope you're all safe and sound, comfortable as well. So my name is Rajeev. I come from the business technology platform product management team based out of here in Bangalore labs. Been with SAP more than 16 years now, mainly in the application lifecycle management area. So some of you might have heard me talk about the ALM tools like Solution Manager, etc. in the past. But in the past few years, I've moved into this new role about making sure our customers and partners are aware of the business technology platform, and then also helping them in adopting the platform as well. So this series, as Mukesh mentioned, we're just kicking off right now with these 2 sessions, and then we have some more planned beyond that as well, is our attempt to help you, first of all, understand what the platform is, what can it do for you, but also help you in adopting the platform, right? So that you can actually make use of the power of this platform together with your core solutions, ERP solutions or LOB solutions that you might have in your landscape from SAP. How can you make the best out of that and also help you in this cloud transformation journey, right? So today, what I had planned is to give you a bird's eye view of what is this platform, what is the value of it, and give you a few glimpses of what this platform can do, right? And then that should hopefully set the stage for us to really talk about the use cases next week as well, where we go deeper into what are customers doing and what are some of the usage patterns on business technology platform, etc. Right? So without further ado, I'll jump into the session. And as Mukesh mentioned, please keep it interactive. So if you have any questions, raise your hand or post them on chat, and then I will come back to those chat questions as well. And let's get into it, right? So now, when you think about SAP, right? So all of you are SAP customers. So I mean, if you do a search on SAP, what do we find, right? So what are we as a company? And that is important because we are then talking about a kind of a new area that we have actually entered, which is a technology platform space in the last few years. And it is important to understand why a company like SAP, which is a market leader in enterprise application software, and it's a transactional system for many customers. A lot of our customers' business processes are dependent on SAP. As you can see, 77% of the world's transaction revenue is touching an SAP system. So that's significant, right? So we have a large companies spread across the globe, actually, who are all using SAP as their day-to-day business process system, right? And that's what we've been doing, and with more than 50 years now. Started off way back with ERP, and then with the advent of cloud, we are now having a whole bunch of cloud offerings as well, both from the ERP standpoint, but also a bunch of LOB solutions as well, right? Now, this is what SAP has been known for, and this is what we aspire to be, number one in the market as well, in the space of application software as well, enterprise application software. What it also means, which was an interesting stat for me, is that we have close to 270 million users on various SAP systems, right, across the globe. And that's a significant number as well. And now many of these users are traditional SAP users from the back end, from business users who are using this for day-to-day business processes. Many of them are also tech-savvy users, right? So there's a lot that is happening in the market where it is not, the user base is actually changing, right? So we have a lot of users who want to play around with technology. So it's not just about entering their invoice and purchase order and so on and so forth into the system and then, do something else, but they really want to see how technology can help their life easier, right? And all of us are using technology all the time. Especially with the pandemic, we are all forced to use technology in a more, day-to-day manner for everything from communication to interaction, these Zoom meetings and so on and so forth, right? So the users are also changing, and that's also important for us at SAP to really see that, okay, how can we now address the needs of these users who are, many of them in the Gen Z, who are then coming in, who are, what we call them as cloud native, in the sense that they're born in the cloud. For them, cloud is natural. It's not like they need to do a transformation. Technology is natural for them. So we also need to address these users, right? So that's also putting a requirement on a company like SAP to think that, okay, it's not sufficient that we deliver enterprise software, but we also need to address these technology needs coming from the customers as well. So And it is also not just, smaller companies, larger companies. So we have, of course, a humongous amount of trust put on us as SAP. So we need to be enterprise ready. We need to have all those enterprise qualities. So every software that we deliver, whether it is the traditional ERP with SAP S/4HANA or the LOB solutions, or now the business technology platform, um, you know, uh, as you can see here, 92% of the global 2000 companies are trusting SAP with their business processes, and the same trust we would like to carry forward to our technology offering as well, right? Um, what it also means is that we are coming into an era where there's a lot that is changing in our world. I mean, not just with the pandemic. Now, thankfully, we are beyond the pandemic. We are now able to come back to the offices, and I'm sitting in office right here in Bangalore. So I think things are changing. But nevertheless, if you just look at what's happening around the world in 2023, right? So there's a lot that is happening, which is impacting businesses all the time, right? Of course, there are wars going on still, unfortunately. The supply chains, which were broken during the pandemic, are still continuing to put a lot of pressure and a lot of business processes. That still poses a humongous challenge on our business processes. There is labor shortages across the globe as well. Of course, inflation is a huge problem across the world, more so in the Western world than for us, but nevertheless, that still is posing a huge risk as well. What it also means is that this is actually translating into a bunch of requirements that are also coming up new relatively with this year, right? So what we are seeing now is a renewed focus on topics like sustainability, right? So you might have seen some of our announcements at Sapphire. We are going big on this whole idea of sustainability. What can we do from SAP to help our customers become more sustainable? The Green Ledger topic that we released in Sapphire, for example, is going in that direction. And customer experience is another topic that is also becoming more and more prominent, where customers are now, as I mentioned, are more tech savvy. The users are more tech savvy, so they expect much more from you as customers, but also that also is a requirement on us as a software vendor. Cybersecurity is a huge topic, obviously, because now that everything is getting into the cloud, cybersecurity is front and center. And then, of course, from a shortage perspective, there's also a shortage of IT talents, right? Which also means that we need to make technology more simpler, more accessible, so that anybody can actually leverage this technology, at least for these basic requirements that they might have, right? Now, with these needs, what is coming up at a higher level from a whole IT organization perspective, or for a CIO, right? So there are two big imperatives that we would like to address, right? One is, of course, sorry, I think there is some background noise. If you can go on mute if you're not speaking, I think that will help. Thank you. So the two big imperatives that we see is one, I think what we want is speed and agility. And I think Mukesh also mentioned in his intro that accelerating time to value, that is the time that is taken from business having a requirement on technology, and by the time they actually realize that requirement, or by the time they realize the value from the solution that you deliver as IT, right? So that time has to be reduced, which means that we need to be more efficient. We need to have technologies that can accelerate this whole process of requirement to deploy, right? Or by the time the value is realized by the business. So I think that's what we mean by accelerating time to value. And of course, hand in hand goes this operational excellence, right? So this is about making the business processes more efficient. More automation is needed. Information and data should be accessible so that insights can be drawn as quickly as possible. So this whole idea of operational excellence is another big imperative that CEOs are driving, right? And now these are not new, right? But the focus on these aspects is happening much more stronger with the advent of all the risks and opportunities that we have seen on the previous slide, right? So how can we address these, right? So of course, that requires a transformation for all of you. And many of you are already on this journey of transformation. And this operational excellence and time to value, if I just put it on a scale, right? When we had the on-prem world, when you have a system or software that you have installed on a data center in your own landscape, the kind of speed that you could have with that is obviously much lower, right? Which means that you need to have all the skills to actually develop on that particular application. You need to maintain that particular application. And then the whole idea of innovation cycle was much, much slower, right? And that was the main driver of customers moving into the cloud, right? So that they can actually leave out the responsibility of maintaining this application and getting the innovations to the software vendor like SAP, and then you then are just a consumer of that particular cloud application, right? So that's the promise of the public cloud applications. And then many of our customers are on the public cloud, especially for our business processes like HXM with SuccessFactors, or procurement with Concur and Ariba, and so on and so forth. So there are a lot of public cloud applications. And many customers also went their ERP on public cloud, right, with S/4HANA public cloud. But then that's not always possible for all of them because of various reasons. One could be that you need more flexibility. Public cloud also brings in a lot of restriction. So what you need actually is a hybrid model. And this is becoming more and more popular with our customers, where they would like to keep certain flexibility with respect to having a private cloud offering wherein they can have more control on the software and the way you deploy the software and manage the software, but also leverage the benefits of the cloud. That is to actually innovate much faster, to have that faster time to value, to have that operational excellence as well, right? So that's kind of the sweet spot that many customers have figured out. And that's the reason why we also see a huge uptake on our private cloud offering from SAP. You see the PCE of SAP S/4HANA picking up quite a lot in the last couple of years, especially with the bundled offering of SAP Rise. Rise with SAP has actually accelerated this whole transformation towards a hybrid cloud environment. And that's also the sweet spot where we are looking at to say that, hey, you have a private cloud SAP S/4HANA, for example, but then as Mukesh mentioned, you want to also have that innovation edge, right? So there are lots of requirements coming your way, and you need to be faster to actually deliver those requirements. And that's where I think the sweet spot comes in, to also have a technology platform to actually help you in that, right? And technology is everywhere nowadays, right? So there's a lot of cloud technologies available for you. You have a buffet of technologies in front of you, and that is in a way fantastic, because you have choice. You have the choice to actually choose the vendor that you would like to go with. The switching costs in technology with respect to cloud is also quite low, which means that you can use one technology today and another technology tomorrow. But it also brings in certain requirements in terms of how these technologies have to work together to actually deliver that accelerated value, right? And this is our priority, right? And that's why we wanted to address this, to really see how we can help our customers in the cloud transformation by providing the right kind of technology that is needed to help you, right? And this translated into our strategy for SAP, and you might have seen this picture at Sapphire, etc. This is kind of summarizing our solution offerings that we bring in from SAP. So broadly, there are two aspects to this whole cloud transformation. One is, of course, the core, which is the ERP solution together with our LOB solutions, right? And that will provide you with powerful business solutions in the cloud and in public cloud or private cloud as a choice for you. And then the second big aspect is the business technology platform, so that you can actually access these solutions much more easily with better user experiences, combine them with SAP, non-SAP, embed any kind of technology. So it need not be a technology coming from SAP. As I mentioned, there are a plethora of technology options for you. So you would also like to combine these technologies together and then create those innovation use cases on top as well, right? So that's really the promise of the business technology platform, which helps you accelerate the usage and enhance the usage of our core ERP solutions and LOB solutions as well, right? And that's what we will focus on today, to see what kind of technologies are we talking about, why you need to look at something like business technology platform and not something else, especially when you're innovating on top of SAP applications, yeah? So if you really look at it, there are kind of 5 elements from a technology standpoint that will actually unleash the business processes, right? So you have all of these solutions, whether it is SAP S/4HANA or SuccessFactors, Concur, Ariba, etc. You need to then have business processes that are running. One of the fundamental things, of course, is the core technologies that you need, right? And then the technologies are changing quite fast. And then with something like AI, for example, has become so prominent in the last couple of months, nobody has anticipated that will become so prominent. AI AI has been there, and we at SAP has been investing and innovating on top of AI for many years now. But suddenly, with the advent of something like ChatGPT, you have more options, and you see, fantastic new use cases that are coming up. So you need, of course, access to all of these technologies, be able to leverage these technologies as and when they are enterprise ready. So you need to be able to use them, right? Along with the technologies comes data, right? So obviously, data is the key pillar, especially when it comes to enterprise applications. The other element of this whole cloud transformation would be easy access to data, easy transformation of this data, easy security of this data, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of elements that needs to be taken care of when it comes to managing data. Right. The third element, obviously, that comes is access and governance, because without that, you would get into a lot of different kinds of trouble with respect to security issues, with respect to privacy concerns, and so on and so forth. So you really need a much better way to actually govern the access of this data together with all the new technologies, so that you can still leverage the new technologies, but in a safe environment, in a privacy protected environment, with the necessary governance and access controls, right? And that's the strength of SAP, right? So we've been doing that for many years for our core ERP processes, and we try to bring in those standards or those qualities to the technology platform as well, right? And then comes the idea of a pre-built content, right? And then we come to this idea of accelerating this whole thing, right? So you have a lot of technologies, you have a lot of data. Now, if you have to build something, it should not take months and years to build a simple use case, right? You need to do that faster. And that's where, again, our idea of a pre-built content comes in, wherein we really want to give you accelerators or baseline content so that you don't need to start from a blank sheet of paper or a blank canvas, but really a lot of business-centric content that is coming from SAP will really help you accelerate that whole build process on top of the technologies, right? And finally, it needs to be self-service as well, right? So it's not sufficient that for every small requirement, you need to bring up an IT team, maybe go to a software vendor to actually build a particular application, mobile application, or a simple portal, and so on and so forth. A lot of these requirements can be done self-service with absolutely no coding as well, with a low-code, no-code offering as well. So it needs to be accessible to business users. So we want to put technology in the hands of business users wherever it's relevant, wherever it's simpler and accessible, so that they can actually quickly build whatever they require in a self-service mode, right? So that's another element of technology that will really, if you have all of these different elements, that will really unleash the power of the business processes, especially in the hands of business users, right? So how does this work, right? So what is happening is, you're just, overwhelmed with all of this, right? Overwhelmed with technologies, overwhelmed with all the data that is there. And there is a cloud data lake somewhere, and then there is external data sources. There is SAP data sources. You need to figure out a safe and easy way to access all of this. You need to figure out what content is readily available, etc. So there's a lot that is really making you really go under the ground and then, cover yourself to really see, okay, what kind of guidance do I need, right? How can I really get and easily use all of this, right? So for that, first of all, with the security and governance, etc., you need a strong infrastructure, right, for this technology. Then it requires a way to manage and access towards the sources, various data sources, both internal and external data sources, both SAP and non-SAP data sources, access to the solutions that are available, and then govern this with the right amount of security, with the right amount of access controls, so that you have these enterprise qualities, etc. And then integrate all of these as well, right? So an easy way to actually make them work together, because as you can imagine, there are, within SAP itself, there are multiple applications, and then now you expand to your entire IT landscape. There are multiple software applications, there are external data sources. So process integration becomes extremely important. And only when you have all of these elements, you will be able to build these fantastic new applications with better UI and get all the fruits of all of this end-to-end technology stack that you have in front of you, right? Whether it is about building automations, whether it is about building new apps, whether it is about building new reports and analytics and predictive analytics and planning applications, whether it is about bringing AI or intelligence, infusing that into your applications, and so on and so forth. All of that could be built only when you have this these different stack elements, right, from the infrastructure all the way to the integration. And once you have all of that is when you can actually build these innovative use cases that you have in mind, right? And that's what we want to offer with Business Technology Platform, this whole path, not just giving you one automation application, an IRP tool, right? It's not about giving you one tool on top, but really taking care of the entire stack, right, from the infrastructure all the way to the process integration, right? And that's what Business Technology Platform is all about, right? It is about giving you all of these different elements, right? So that you can combine any kind of service with any kind of data coming from SAP, non-SAP, etc., and build those innovative applications, right? And we have 5 different technology areas, right? From application development to automation capabilities with IRPA and process automation. Then we have integration capabilities, a very mature integration suite in the cloud. We have a full stack data analytics capabilities available right from persistency layer with the HANA Cloud to SAP Analytics Cloud, which is the UI layer. And then the more recently enhanced data sphere, which is then combining data sources coming from various sources and so on and so forth, right? And finally, AI as well, which has always been there in the Business Technology Platform and in various SAP applications as well, but that is becoming more and more prominent, and more customers who are willing to now try out innovative use cases leveraging AI as well, right? So these are the 5 technology pillars of Business Technology Platform, and we have close to 100 different services which are then split across various these technology areas that are all offered to you as a platform, right? And that's one of the key things that is always missed about the technology platform from SAP, right? People only know parts of it, right? So maybe you are using the integration suite and you only think that BTP is integration suite, or maybe you're only using the analytics cloud and think that BTP is only the analytics cloud. But really the power of the platform is in that entire stack, right? Right from the infrastructure. So we run on all hyperscalers, so we can run it on Azure, AWS, Google Cloud Platform, etc., and then bring in all these elements all the way up to the data integration and process integration, so that you can actually build these innovative use cases on top, right? So that's the power of the platform. And obviously, it's not just us validating it and then saying about it. We are actually recognized as a leader from various of these analysts as well. So, and from various different components, right? Not just in one area. So all of these technology areas, whether it is about integration, whether it is about data analytics from Forrester, Gartner, etc., we've been nominated as the in the leader quadrant in various analyst reports as well, right? So what does it mean now? So let's have a quick what we call as a speed date with BTP, so that you can get a flavor of what this technology platform all about. So it's not just about these PowerPoints, but really, what does this technology mean to you, right? And what does it look like, right? So let's just quickly dive into touching and feeling some of these technologies as we go along, so that will give you, as Mukesh mentioned at the beginning, if you can keep in mind the kind of requirements that you're faced with day in and day out, and the kind of speed at which your business is expecting you to respond, right? If you can keep that in mind while you go through some of these components, then you might get some ideas in terms of how this platform can help you realize those goals, realize those requirements as well. Yeah. So one of the first things that you will hit with as soon as you subscribe to BTP is the BTP cockpit, right? So that's the front and center, or the first experience that you will get is as soon as you subscribe, you'll get an email with the access to the cockpit, and that's where you'll instantiate BTP in terms of, sorry about that. In terms of instantiating, in terms of managing users and security, etc. So that would be your access to the world of BTP, right? So and it is quite vast, as I mentioned, 5 different technology areas, hundreds of services spread across different technologies, whether it is about low-code, no-code tools, whether it is about portal tools, whether it is about integration suite or data and analytics. So there's a lot of these services that are available, which you can all manage using the cockpit, right? But then immediately you might get lost in saying that, oh my God, there are so many of these things. How do I understand? What does it mean? Where can I get more information? So the first stop I would recommend you to check out to really get an understanding of these services from a technical point of view, but also to understand the commercial implications of these particular services as well, is the Discovery Center. right? So if there is one link that you should remember at the end of my presentation, that would be the Discovery Center. We will also post the link on the chat. It's also there as part of my presentation, which I will share. So Discovery Center is a place where you can actually go in and then just search for any kind of service, get information about where is this service available, what is the pricing behind this particular service, what are some of the use cases that you can build using this particular service, and so on and so forth, right? So it is a one-stop shop to really understand any kind of information with respect to a business technology platform. But what is also interesting is the missions aspect, right? Now, missions are curated, guided use cases. So which means that, let's say you want to build something where you include the Google data lake with the data coming from S/4HANA, and then build some particular application. So there is a mission for that already available in the Discovery Center, which gives you step-by-step guidance right from the setup of the services till the realization of that use case, right? So it's a fantastic starting point. So there's, again, I would strongly recommend you to check out the missions to really see how you can learn to use BTP as well. So it could be used as a learning opportunity, really pick a particular use case and then try it out on your business technology landscape as well. The other important thing here is also the fact that it also tells you a lot of things that are available for free, right? So we have launched the free tier of BTP. So you don't need to actually subscribe to the services. You can actually sign up for the free tier and then start leveraging these services in a non-productive manner, but to play around with various of these services as well, right? So that's another important thing that you need to look at, especially if you want to build a POC now on a particular use case. It's easier to actually subscribe to these free tier services and then start to leverage them as well, right? So Discovery Center, a very important portal when it comes to BTP, to have one-stop shop of all kinds of access of information. Yeah. And then there is a lot of these capabilities that are available, right? Right from building applications to integrating applications to managing data and analytics and portal and so on and so forth, right? So what I would like to give you is to give you a quick glimpse of each of these different capabilities. But of course, we will plan much more detailed enablement sessions for each of these areas going forward as well via the INDUS program that we have kicked off today. But today, I would like to give you a very small glimpse of what this technology is all about, what does it do, so that you get a flavor of that before you dive into checking them out, right? One of the first things which we've launched last year, actually almost 2 years ago now, is SAP Build, right? And now SAP Build is has a combination of applications, but one of the things that is extremely popular these days is the SAP Build apps. Now, SAP Build apps is a low-code, no-code tool, which allows you to create a quick mobile application, a quick portal for native mobile application. In this case, I think this is being built for an iPhone as a macOS application. As you can see, there is no code involved. It's just drag and drop. You want to bring in some external data. You want to connect to an SAP S/4HANA via an API. You can do all of that, bring in the data and create a quick application without doing any kind of coding, right? Now, this is a very powerful tool for two reasons, right? So first of all, it is a tool that you can put in the hands of business users so that they can actually build as a self-service whatever small little application that they can build, right? Now, of course, this doesn't mean that there is no need for any kind of pro coding. Obviously, there will be complex applications, complex requirements where you would still need an IT team to actually build that particular application. And even if somebody builds an application using SAP Build to actually deploy that and maintain that, you would also need the IT operations, right? But what it does is to give the power in the hands of the business user, right? So that they can actually try this out, right? So that would be the first use case of Build apps. The other use case that we see also is that this allows the business users to articulate and describe their requirements in a much more visual manner, right? Instead of just giving you a Word document or sometimes even on a PowerPoint presentation, this would be a working application that they can actually visualize and then tell you, this is exactly what I need, right? So the communication between business and IT could also be improved with SAP Build apps, right? So it's a very powerful tool, right? You can build really complex applications, and we have customers who are building portals and mobile applications. We have a fantastic DHL example example where the truckers in DHL are reporting truck problems using a mobile app where they scan the issue and so on and so forth. You can do a lot of different things with SAP Build apps. And then when we go into the deep dives, you will also see a much more deeper understanding of how to build applications using SAP Build apps, right? Another tool that comes into the second technology area, which is the integration aspect, right? Where you want to combine applications. So you want to send data from one place to another. You want to integrate SAP applications with non-SAP applications, with government systems like the GST application coming from the government with their APIs and so on and so forth. The integration suite has the cloud integration component, which means that we have taken the integration into the cloud, where you have both the design time and runtime in the cloud as well. So integration suite allows you to connect apps and processes and also content and data across SAP and non-SAP, right? Again, it's a very simple user interface to actually manage in terms of how to build these integrations, in terms of converting into different formats, XMLs to JSONs to CSVs, etc., etc. All of that can be done very easily with the cloud integration component of integration suite. And integration suite also has other areas, for example, API management, where if you want to expose data from your company systems to external vendors or customers, right? You can create and maintain secure APIs. So that's API management. There's also an advanced event mesh, which allows you to be more event driven. So there are multiple events that you can actually trigger and then react to those events. Somebody created a sales order. You want to react to that and build an app or an automation based on that sales order. So all of that can be done with the event mesh, right? So there's a lot of technologies in the integration suite, and that's why it's an integration suite and not just one technology, right? Again, we will have a deep dive session on this particular topic as well. The next thing that I would like to give you a glimpse is the process automation. Now, IRPA has been there for many years now, and this is also something that many of our customers are extremely interested in terms of this operational excellence aspect, right? Where you would like to automate certain business processes, like, for example, approval of sales orders, creating invoices based on PDF documents that are sent on email. So there could be a plethora of use cases which you would like to optimize your business processes by automating parts of them, right? So SAP Build Process Automation really comes into play here as well. Again, it's a visual tool where you are actually building that process automation steps with conditions, with workflows attached to it, with automatic approvals attached to it, and also intelligence embedded in it, which means that if you want to do character recognition of a PDF document which is coming in an email, you can actually embed that intelligence into the process automation as well. So again, it's a very powerful tool. So it has the IRPA capabilities, but it is much more than a simple IRPA, and it is very business centric, right? And that's important about the business technology platform. We are always thinking about the business processes, and here as well, there is a lot of pre-built content which accelerates this whole building of automations using SAP Build Process Automation, right? Then comes the data side of things, right? So first of all, you would want to visualize your business processes. You want to create dashboards. You want to create dashboards based on content coming from various data sources. You want to do prediction of forecasting of how things will work. You want to do planning. So this is SAP Analytics Cloud. It is one of the few tools out there which can do both analytics and planning, right? So it's not just about showing what is happening right now, but also this whole planning use cases can be built and forecasting use cases can be embedded within SAP Analytics Cloud as well, right? So it's a fantastic visualization tool. There's a lot of intelligence now we are also building into it, wherein we have natural language processing instead of actually building these dashboards. You can actually converse with it, type in a statement saying that I want to know the top revenue of these 3 sales groups or whatever, and then a dashboard is built based on that conversation that you're having, right? So there's a lot of enhancements that we are doing in the SAP Analytics Cloud, which helps you in building these analytics and planning solutions as well. Then Analytics Cloud is also your visualization tool to get insights and also smart insights, like what I mentioned, with some prediction, with some natural language processing. So a lot of these things are also included. So instead of, if I can just play that, so instead of creating something from a dashboard from scratch, you can actually do smart discovery. For example, you can say that what is my target? My target is to talk about a particular revenue of a particular entity, what kind of filters I need. So instead of you actually playing around with the data and trying to fiddle with the queries and so on and so forth, you can actually do it in a much more business-centric way to say that I want a weighted revenue for a particular opportunity. So now we are talking about data coming from S/4HANA and our CX suite, and then you can add some measures and filters. And as soon as you're done with all of those settings, it actually generates the full story for you, right? So it's not just about one particular graph or one particular report. It builds the entire story based on the components that you have actually created, right? So this is the overview of the weighted revenue for a given opportunity, and then it picks the right kind of visualizations for you as well, right? And of course, you can modify it from here. Again, talking about that acceleration that we bring in, right? Instead of you building everything from scratch, you start with these smart approaches to accelerate the building of such analytics and prediction capabilities, right? So that's SAP Analytics Cloud. And finally, when it comes to managing data, it is not just about SAP data anymore. It is about combining data sources, and that's the most important requirement these days, which is about not just SAP external data as well, coming from various data lakes, but making the data accessible to business users so that they can actually build those stories that we just saw in SAP Analytics Cloud, right? Now, to do that, you need a modeling environment, you need a data warehouse, which can handle various things. And here again, we are visually building a data model here as well, combining various data sources coming. I mean, in this case, we are picking up tables from SAP S/4HANA. And as you can see, while I drag and drop, the joins are automatically picked up or recommended. You can actually put in some expressions for your filtering and so on and so forth, right? It's a very visual way of creating a data model or analytical model, which will then be the basis on which your business users are creating analytics dashboards and planning dashboards, right? So this is extremely important. Again, a data warehousing application called DataSphere, which is then available in the cloud as well, right? So these are just to give you a few glimpses of the technologies that we have in BTP, right? And as you can see, the breadth of what we cover, from building applications with a low code, no code, and of course, I've not even covered the pro code tools, right? With Business Application Studio and so on and so forth. There's a lot that you can do with the technology platform. Now, we can't end the technology discussion without talking about AI, right? So with AI, we've always had artificial intelligence, machine learning embedded in our applications. We have various intelligent apps that we have built into our core products like SAP S/4HANA for many years now. Now, with the advent of generative AI and ChatGPT, we see much more possibilities. We, at the same time, we also see a need to safeguard some of the things like data privacy and not making sure that the enterprise data doesn't really get accessed by these language models and things like that. While we have already included such AI applications, AI-powered business processes for a while now, with generative AI, we also see the need to actually bring that in and make that accessible to our enterprise applications, right? So that's why we call this as business AI. So we really want to give that business context to AI as well, right? So which means that we leverage the general purpose AI technologies like OpenAI, for example, or Google Bard and so on and so forth, and then combine that with the business data that we have access to, and then allow you to actually build intelligent applications across our business processes that are then possible, right? So this is the promise of the business AI, and it's a fantastic new area. We are already building many such generative AI use cases within our applications. We also see customers building custom applications leveraging generative AI. And then next week, when we talk about the art of the possible, we will see a couple of those examples of how you can leverage generative AI as well, which means that we are moving up the value in terms of the maturity. While we were doing originally only analyzing existing data with statistical models and things like that, we moved on to machine learning, where we can actually do some regression and do some prediction. Now more into the creation space, we can actually create and generate intelligence based on these, especially with these large language models, etc., right? So that's what we plan to do, wherein we would leverage the data sources, whether it is text, images, speech, or structured data. We would create a set of foundation models as well, and then adapt them with prompt engineering, fine-tuning, embedding these into capabilities, intelligent capabilities, not just within our own standard applications, but also the same technology will be available for you to build generative AI applications on top of, let's say, SAP S/4HANA, for example. You can create writing assistants, you can create bots with Q&A, you can do code generation to improve developer efficiency, and so on and so forth. So a lot of interesting use cases are possible with AI, right? Good. So in terms of how this fits into digital transformation, for example, if you're moving to SAP S/4HANA, or in general, you're already live on SAP S/4HANA, and then you have an business process like order to cash, where does BTP fit in that journey, right? I see a lot of chat messages. Maybe I quickly look at that and then see if we have any questions to pick up.
So, Rajiv, there are a few questions. So maybe once you finish, we'll come to all of them as we go.
Perfect. All right. So I would like to take a quick example with the order to cash process. Let's say you have an order to cash process which has various components, right, from marketing with attracting new customers and offering them and selling them and fulfilling the order and collecting the invoices and so on and so forth. That's a very typical but simplistic view of the order to cash process. Now, when you have such a process, obviously this is already live, maybe on your ECC system or hopefully on your SAP S/4HANA system, right? So this process is already running. Now, what we need to do when we think about technology and innovation is to say that how can you change this process? What can make this better, right? Maybe there are certain aspects which are too slow, which means that you can improve the efficiency, or maybe they are too hard. Maybe you can automate some parts of that particular process, or maybe certain things you can't even do these days, right, with the particular software, that technology that is already available, right? So these are, cues that you can use to actually see how can I improve this particular process. So if you are just taking a process-centric view, so that's one way of identifying the ideas of what you can build with BTP, is just to see the inefficiencies and the gaps in the business process, and then try to fill them with the technology use cases. And again, you have access to all of these different technologies from BTP, and then you can actually build these applications with these technologies and then say that, hey, can I fill those gaps? Can I make that process simpler? Can I make that process more efficient, right? So that's kind of a quick visual view on, if you have a business process, where do you find the gaps, and then how do you improve that? Right. And one more systematic way of doing that would be to leverage tools like SAP Signavio, right? So SAP Signavio allows you to map those business processes, simulate them, figure out the inefficiencies, figure out the gaps, and then jump into a technology platform like BTP to actually automate them, to actually fill that with a particular intelligent application. Maybe there is a generative AI use case to actually make that particular process faster, and so on and so forth, right? So all the art of the possible, right? So it's really the sky is the limit from that point of view. But more importantly, and I think what Mukesh also alluded to at the beginning, is to identify the right problems, right? So that you can actually create business value. So it's not just about playing with the technology. It's not just about creating something fancy, but really addressing the business problem. And that's what we are trying to say here in terms of optimizing your processes with BTP, right? The other aspect is, of course, if you are still on ECC, for example, or thinking about moving to SAP S/4HANA, and many of our customers have started on the journey or about to start on the journey, and BTP plays a significant role. And that is the reason why BTP is actually bundled as part of the RISE offering as well, where we actually see that BTP can help the transformation or actually accelerate and improve the transformation quite tremendously, and then help you realize more value in your cloud transformation, right? And then there are multiple components, right? So first of all, you can do integration, which becomes front and center in terms of this new system. How does it work with various other systems that you have in the landscape, various other systems outside your landscape, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, doing development as well. and then doing data analytics and unified view on data analytics so that you bring all the data sources together, make it easy for the business users to realize those reporting requirements or planning requirements or analytics requirements and so on and so forth, right? And that's what BTP can offer to you, right? So on one hand, it can help you in doing any kind of point-to-point integrations with a lot of predefined APIs that we have, event-driven development from an integration standpoint. From a development standpoint, I think it is also very important because when you are moving to SAP S/4HANA, you would need to keep the core clean, right? So that you can actually innovate on the edges or on the side by side. And in that case, you can actually leverage both our low-code, no-code offerings, because maybe some of those RICEPs that you identify could be developed very simply with the SAP Build apps, right? Or only for those complex ones, you would actually go to the pro code, ABAP development, Cloud Foundry development, and so on and so forth. Making the development more independent is an important aspect of the S/4HANA transformation as well. Then comes the data part. Obviously, there were a lot of, there would be a migration from, let's say, your traditional data warehouse, which is probably on-prem, into the cloud, for example, bringing in data sources coming from various entities inside your organization, outside your organization. We call that as the business data fabric, right? So you build that business data fabric, which includes sources and then combined into various models so that you can actually build fantastic analytical and planning solutions on top of it, right? And then the power of a platform like BTP is that you don't see them in isolation, right? So when you do some kind of a planning or analysis, right, using SAP Analytics Cloud, for example, the action part, you can then jump and then do a process automation using SAP Build Process Automation, right? You found some gap while analyzing a set of data coming from SAP, non-SAP, and the action that you need to do to actually fix a problem that you have or the insight that you've got could be done with a process automation, for example, to actually improve the process efficiency and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of power that you can get actually when you combine these technologies as well, right? Instead of looking them in isolation. So that's another thought that I would like you to have when you're thinking about use cases. So it's not just about looking at one particular technology area and trying to figure out use cases, but really seeing the combination of these technologies and then see how they can actually help you. And then when you look at the transformation itself, right? So there are two levels of transformation that is happening. On one hand, you have a landscape transformation, which is the low layer in terms of the actual ECC system, migrating it into the cloud, whether it is public or private cloud, and the lot that is happening at the software level, at the code level, to the integration level, to the data level, to the analytics level, etc. So that needs to be transformed as well. At the same time, your business processes are also transforming, right? So the way that you are doing source to pay in ECC would be very different from how you would do with SAP S/4HANA and Ariba together, right? So the business process itself is transforming as well. And there are a lot of opportunities that come when you actually transform these business processes as well, right? And of course, for the landscape part, we have a lot of tools that are available from SAP in terms of helping you in that migration journey, right? So the ECC was based on NetWeaver, and then now we are moving to the new world with respect to SAP S/4HANA and the applications as well. Now here we see, let's say, 3 levels of maturity in terms of how you can leverage the business technology platform. At the landscape level, when you are migrating, let's say you have the traditional code in ABAP, etc., you want to build that on BTP wherever it's relevant. So that's one path that goes on. Integration wise, you have something in PIPO that gets migrated into the integration suite. On the data side, you have something as a business warehouse in BW or maybe BW for HANA. You want to move that into the data sphere. And the plan and analyze, you have integrated planning, you have BPC, you have business objects, and so on and so forth. All of that gets combined into SAP Analytics Cloud, right? So again, you don't need to do all of them, right? You could do, at various levels of maturity, maybe parts of it, and then pick them up as you go along. But in ideal case, you would want to go to the new world so that you can get the most out of your cloud transformation, right? So if you keep some parts still on-prem and still, in the old world, the quantum of value that you would get would be that much lesser, right? And again, you could do a little bit what we call as walk, run, and fly, right? Do side-by-side extensions in BTP with respect to your code, do any kind of reliable integration using cloud integration, bring the business context and data into DataSphere, and then have self-service analytical reports in Analytics Cloud, right? And then you can do more accelerated development, more consolidation of your integration, more cross-data catalog across SAP, non-SAP, more integrated planning and analytics. That is the second maturity level with respect to run. And then finally, doing a much more enterprise-wide, even low-code, no-code tools in the hands of your business users, data as a product, as a concept that could be built with SAP DataSphere, for example, productizing the integration so that you can also make money out of even the data that you have in your organization when you make that accessible to the outside world, right? So there is a lot that you can do, right? Of course, you can start small with the walk area and then go up the maturity as well, right? So when it comes to the transformation from ECC to S/4HANA, BTP plays a front and center role, and that's why we also package that as part of our RISE offering. And then there are a lot of customer stories who have leveraged the different components of BTP. For example, Globus has built a mobile front end with respect to having a better customer experience with respect to their end users, and then they have consolidated all of a lot of their reward programs into one particular thing. All of that was possible with respect to this particular BTP solution, right? Porsche has done a lot with respect to data, realizing value from data. So there are thousands of users across different departments, all having a single source of truth, right? When we say single source of truth, it's not just about single source of truth in SAP, but across SAP, non-SAP, and so on and so forth, right? And then significant reduction in terms of time to value as well, right? So there's a lot of such cases. Roche here as well, a lot that they have done in terms of financial forecasting, etc., and significant savings. And then these automated data entry points, right? This is significant as well. There's a lot of process automation that is involved here in terms of data entry, because data entry is the last thing that business users want to do. And now with the technologies that we have in front of us, we are able to automate most of it so that it makes it simpler for business users, right? So that's what we can offer. And there's a lot of pre-built content that we have. So this is the power of BTP, the B in BTP, right? We have pre-built dashboards so that you don't build from scratch. We have pre-built data models. So complex data models like what you see on the screen here is pre-built and readily available, not just with SAP data, but combining non-SAP data as well. So there's a lot of pre-built data models available. Then there are pre-built integrations available to a lot of third-party systems like payroll systems like ADP, to our government systems that are across multiple countries, and so on and so forth, right? So pre-built integrations will make the integrations faster. Then we have pre-built development, a lot of bots and developer tools and UI frameworks and SDKs and so on and so forth. Again, the idea is to accelerate and improve that time to value as well, right? So all in all, if you combine the real stack, the entire stack of BTP, and combine these technologies, there's no limit in terms of the kind of speed that you can get with developing with BTP as well, right? So that's the components, the cloud core with our enterprise applications, combined with the platform and a good transformation method, hopefully powered by RISE with SAP, will really accelerate your cloud transformation journey as well, right? So that's what I would like to have as a summary. Maybe Mukesh, we can take some questions and then also do a bit of networking before we jump into a short game. Yeah.
Absolutely. So thanks a lot, Rajeev, for taking us through this entire presentation. I'm super excited at what is possible with the platform. So let's just quickly take a few questions that we have. Okay. So, for example, the first question, and probably the easiest one for you to answer, is. Just one second, I'm just opening up the questions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so question, any limitations on technology which cannot be integrated using the integration suite?
Any limitations in terms of technology that cannot be integrated? No, integration suite is an open technology, right? So in that sense, you can integrate. Now, the complexity of how it can be done, right, might vary, right? So that's that's how it's going to be. So there are a lot of pre-built integrations. So there are a lot of technologies that we already integrate out of the box, right? So that would be the fastest because we have tested and built that integration. But if there is a technology out there that for which we don't have a pre-built integration, that has to be built, and that would take a little bit more effort, making sure that we have the appropriate communication mechanisms and so on and so forth. So that will take some time. But in general, we are open and we support a lot of standard integration methods and techniques as well. Yeah.
So to put it differently, any modern application can be integrated with the integration suite. Did I get that right, Rajeev?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, cool. Right. Thank you. So the next one, what are the use cases for generative AI with SAP?
Yeah. So this is, I expected this question. So obviously we have many, right? I think we will cover that next week. And also we will mostly have another AI specific session for you, right? Where we will cover that in more detail. But just to give you a quick glimpse, right? So there are a couple of use cases that we are embedding in our applications, right? For example, there is a use case which we want to deliver in Q4 this year in SuccessFactors to generate a job description, right? So you build a job parameters with certain skills and department, etc. And then we leverage generative AI to actually generate a template job description for you, right? It's a very simplistic example, but just to give you a flavor of how we are infusing generative AI capabilities within our applications. And similarly, in the CX suite, for example, you are a sales person trying to create an email for your prospect, right? So we look at the opportunity and then we generate a email template for you based on the opportunity details and so on and so forth. So these are use cases that we have already embarked on to build, right? But that's something that SAP will build and infuse in our applications. Now, in terms of what you can build, right? Leveraging OpenAI, for example, combining that with BTP and creating a mobile application or something like that. There, the opportunities are limitless, right? So that depends on what you want to do. Again, going back to my business process example, where would you like to make that simpler for your business user? And based on that, we will be able to, the technology is available, right? Now we need to figure out the right problem to solve in that case, right? So there are many, I think there are about 10, 15, which were launched in Sapphire itself, right? Which are part of our applications. And we also have a reference architecture, which allows you to build your own generative AI applications on top of BTP. And all of that we will cover in subsequent sessions.
So the idea is we will go into each one of these 5 areas that Rajeev spoke about in depth in the coming weeks. So be on the lookout for the email that talks about this. So what's the backend Gen AI being used? This is also straightforward.
I think we are open. So that's again the openness of BTP, right? So we are not a pure play AI company in that sense that we don't want to create our own. So we will leverage everything that is available out there, right? So we can integrate with OpenAI, for example, right? So we can integrate with the Google engine. We have already announced the integration into IBM Watson already, right? So there are a lot of possibilities. So we keep that open. So we want to work with those niche players in that market. And then what we want to do, and that's the nature of business AI, right? So we are trying to give AI a business context, right, with the business technology platform. And that's our play over there, where we want to make sure that enterprise data is leveraged. We want to create the prompts and then make sure that we are doing it in an ethical way with all the privacy taken care of and so on and so forth. So that's where we are playing. But from a technology standpoint, we can work with any mainstream AI, generative AI technology out there.
Okay, so there's another question around process automation. How is process automation different from Signavio, which SAP has in the product portfolio?
So I think they are complementary, right? So it's not fair to actually compare them also in that sense. So Signavio is about process visualization, process analysis, right? If I can say that, to figure out how efficient is your process or how inefficient your process is, for example. And as soon as you find some insight from Signavio, that's when the process automation kicks in to actually make that process more efficient, right? So they are complementary in that sense. In fact, we have a hard integration as well. So from Signavio, you can actually trigger a bot in-process automation to actually improve the process as well, right? So that's how they play together. So one is identifying an inefficiency. The other one is kind of resolving that inefficiency with automation. Yeah.
Another easy one. Are there any standard BTP free tier apps that can be demonstrated to business and is integrated with SAP ECC on-prem?
SAC, ECC on-prem, we don't have any ready-made apps, to be honest, but
they can build one, right?
Yeah, of course, you can build one very easily with the free tier services. So you sign up for free tier, you can build one. You need to wrap the information into an API so that it could be accessed, right? So you can build something on top of ECC using the free tier as well. We don't have any ready-made apps to my knowledge. I can still check and find out that could be easily demonstrated. But I think, like what Mukesh mentioned, it's more important that you find a business example that is more relevant for your business and build that using free tier and then demonstrate it, rather than picking up something from SAP which might or might not be relevant in your business context.
Okay. So Arjun, do you want to unmute yourself and ask a question?
Absolutely. Thanks, Mukesh. Hey, Rajeev, thanks for the wonderful session. I have a question on the analytics that you're referring to.
Yeah.
You mentioned there is an SAP data, non-SAP data, and then you're running the analytics on top of it. So where do you store that non-SAP data, right? Usually in the SAP data, we know it's coming from the tables, but you should have the common platform to store both the data, right? So why do you do that?
Yeah, good question, Arjun. I mean, first of all, we don't want to replicate data. Let me be clear on that, right? Our strategy would be to keep the data at the source and then federate it using tools like DataSphere to actually model the data. So that would be the live access to the data wherever it's possible, right? Now, it might not be possible for all kinds of data sources to have that live access. In the cases where we cannot have that live access or to keep the data at the source, we actually put that back into our own persistence layer. Of course, we have HANA Cloud, which is the SaaS version of HANA available in the cloud, right? We can actually put the data in the HANA Cloud and then leverage that from there. But by principle, by recommendation, we want the data to be at the source. Even the S/4HANA data, we don't want to replicate that again in DataSphere or again in HANA Cloud, right? So it will remain in S/4HANA at the source so that we can actually have a live access to it and then federate and combine the data coming from various sources. So the modeling that then happens is the logical modeling that happens on the DataSphere, but physically they are actually in various data sources. So that would be the going in position. And then wherever it's not possible, we bring that into HANA Cloud. So there is a possibility to store it, but from an architecture guidance perspective, we try to keep that at the source.
That's great. So just to follow up that question, is it a structured data? Usually the non-SAP data is a structured data, right? But non-SAP data could be non-structured data. So how do you going to combine both?
Yeah, it is possible to have non-structured data also. Yeah, I mean, again, non-structured data could also be stored in HANA Cloud, right? Just from a persistency layer perspective. But of course, if you have, let's say, an external data source like Google BigQuery, for example, or any other data lakes that are out there with non-structured data, etc., you can actually combine that as well. The question would be in terms of how do you give a business context to it, right? So what we are trying to do with DataSphere is to give a business context and make, once we give the business context the data, we make that available for business users to actually play around with it and then display it, right? So that's what we are trying to add with DataSphere, right? It is possible, but again, we have to discuss the use case. So what I would recommend is if you have a use case in mind, keep that with you. And we will also have the DataSphere session or the data analytics session. We can also discuss there, but also we could then see if for that particular use case, how DataSphere can help in giving that business context to the non-structured data as well. Yeah.
So just to add to what Rajeev said and to the previous question as well, one of the things that we are trying to do with this entire series is not just be a information sharing and question answering session, but as a subsequent follow-up to all the series, we will also be looking at identifying customers who are willing to work on a live use case or a live POC for their organization, a real case, and help build those case up as well with support from the SAP product teams as we go along. So keep an eye out on that as well. Nilesh, for you as well, you will get an email maybe shortly about how you can participate and have a team which the SAP team can actually support you in building apps that just leverage the free tier services, and which then you can showcase to both your internal stakeholders to show the power, and at the same time, we will see how you can actually showcase that back to the community as well. So a question on pre-built content and data models.
Yep.
Are the pre-built contents and data models part of SAP Analytics Cloud or SAP BTP?
I hope the question is answered, Sunil, in the sense that SAP Analytics Cloud is part of BTP firstly, right? So from that point of view, yeah, it is obviously, if it's part of Analytics Cloud, it's part of BTP. The content is generally available independent of the tool, right? So if you go to api.sap.com, you can actually browse through all the different kinds of content, whether they are APIs or analytics content and CDS views and so on and so forth. You can actually browse through the content, and you actually get that into the tool as and when necessary, right? For example, we have a bot store, right? So where we have pre-built bots, and then as and when you need a particular bot, you actually bring that into your process automation tool and then leverage that as a baseline to build it. And same thing goes with Analytics Cloud as well. So there's a lot of analytics packages, pre-built content packages available for you to import into Analytics Cloud, right? But overarchingly, all the different kinds of pre-built content are available as part of BTP. Yeah.
So next question again by Arjun was, you mentioned there are few predefined use cases in BTP.
Mm-hmm.
So does SAP publish it, and where can customers find it?
That's the discovery center. So definitely the use cases are available, and these are all called as missions in the discovery center. So if you go through the mission catalog, you will see many. And I think I would strongly recommend you to attend the next week's session on Friday, where we will also go through at least a subset of those most significant ones through those use cases as well. But yeah, to answer your question, the discovery center is where you would find these pre-built use cases.
Super. So could you share more about the Discovery Center, BTP roles and services? Again,
yeah, I think it's quite straightforward. I could also do a short demo of that. Let me just bring it up while we take any further question.
Yeah. So question around recording. The session is recorded and is available on the INDUS YouTube channel. You will get an email, follow-up email shortly with links to the recording as well as to the slides, just so that you don't have to worry about that. So yeah.
So this is the Discovery Center, right? It's discoverycenter.cloud.sap. I will paste the link in the chat in a minute. But basically, it has two parts, right? On one hand, we have the service catalog. Let's say you want to know what services are available in free tier, and then you can click on this one and then you see about 58 services are available in the free tier, right? Right from AI Launchpad, AI Core to build apps. This is the low-code, no-code tool to integration suite. So there's a whole bunch of services readily available for you on free tier. So you can go into a particular service and then get details about that service. What is that service all about? What is the actual pricing? If you go with various contractual options, what are related missions and use cases that are available that is leveraging this particular service as well, right? So that's also something. For example, this is an ABAP environment. So there is a mission which is using SAP Fiori custom code migration app to analyze your ABAP custom code. So this is a use case or a mission that is available that is leveraging this particular service as well. So this is kind of mapping the missions, and then there is a roadmap view where you can see how what are the new enhancements that are then planned in the upcoming quarters. So that's also something interesting. And then any customer stories that are available, other customers who have leveraged the same service, right? So all information available in one space, right, in the service catalog, right? So definitely something for you to look at, especially if you also want to filter, saying that I only want to see which services that are available on Azure or Google Cloud and so on and so forth. You could also filter, and also based on regions and so on and so forth, right? So this is a service catalog. The second thing is the mission catalog, and I think that was the question as well with respect to use cases. For example, I'm looking at ERP and finance use cases on BTP, right? So these are a bunch of use cases that are available. Maybe this one is a demand analysis use case. This was built by PwC. Actually, we have colleagues from PwC in the call. So this is actually a use case built by the partner. And then you see the use case description here and the reference architecture here in terms of how does it look like, what components of BTP are used with the Analytics Cloud, with the business warehouse, and so on and so forth. So this was built by PwC. And then there is a project board, right? And this is the most important thing, right? Which gives you a step-by-step guidance in terms of how do you discover information about the services, what preparations and setup you need to do, what you need to do in the realize phase, and how do you operate this, and so on and so forth. So the full description about how to actually realize this particular use case is also described in the project board. And then you can subscribe to this particular mission and then actually track your progress of doing each of these steps as well. So you can actually, I need to log in, but you can then actually get the actual description of how to go about these different tasks as well, right? So these are missions. So missions and services. So everything related to BTP is in one particular window. Yeah. So Mukesh, we have 15 more minutes, I think. Shall we do a quick game?
2 questions and then we can get into the game.
Sure.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
So I think one important question that someone asked is around integration suite. So how can you connect non-SAP system if there is no API provided?
Yeah. So this is what we call as a custom integration that has to be built. Again, there is enough documentation available. We will also cover that in the integration suite session, right? This has to be built. And as Mukesh mentioned, if it is a modern application that you're trying to integrate, it should be possible, right? Again, depends on the technology, what kind of integration you want to have, asynchronous, synchronous, and so on and so forth. So it depends on the use case, right? Then there is enough documentation available for you to build those custom use cases.
Super. Last question, and then we can go into the game. So please give some insight on how on-prem S4 customers can onboard to BTP to start their journey.
Perfect. So absolutely, first of all, it's the perfect tool to get into the cloud, right? Although you are on-prem S4, you want to have that edge integration or edge use cases with innovation, etc. You can build on BTP. To get started, I think one of the key components would be, of course, first of all, to get BTP, either free tier or through your own subscription. And once you get onto BTP, what would be important for you is to set up a component called Cloud Connector. And by the way, we will have a deep dive on getting started with BTP, and we will cover this Cloud Connector over there as well, which allows you to connect your on-prem system to the cloud, which is BTP, right? So, and then it opens up the opportunities to actually access the data and build applications and so on and so forth, right? All of that would then be possible. Most of the use cases that you would see in the missions where S4HANA is there, you could actually also build on S4HANA on-prem, right? So if you want to find some ideas in terms of what you could build, I would recommend you to check out the Discovery Center. And I think I will paste the link as we also wanted to do that. So that's the link on the chat for the Discovery Center. Sorry. Good. So with
one
that,
follow-up question.
Yes.
Sorry, Raj. Yeah. First of all, thank you so much for this and really greatly presented. And one follow-up question on this cloud connectors, how it is different if I'm on SAP Cloud or SAP on-premise? Like, what is the difference I get?
So there is no difference technically speaking, right? In the SAP cloud or an SAP managed private cloud, for example, we decide the infrastructure or we manage the infrastructure. We have the contract with the infrastructure and we deploy it and manage the S4 for you, right? That's the only difference. Whereas if you put it on your on-prem, that's your data center and you deploy the software on your own and you are responsible for the upgrades and so on and so forth, right? So that is the big difference. So technically, how the cloud connector connects, there should not be any difference between whether you went with private cloud and then accessing it, or it's on-prem on your own data center. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Then let's get on to menti.com. So if you can go to menti.com and enter this code, right? Mukesh, if you can just paste that code on the chat for me, I think that would help. Otherwise, when you see my other screen, you will also see the same code.
I'm putting it on the chat. Just give me a second.
Yeah.
menti.com. And
so we'll have some fun, right? So this is a short quiz, right? Just to check your knowledge, but also summarize some of the learnings that we've had during the session, right? So if you can come on to the Menti, I see 10 of you already there, which is great. You can give me a quick heart sign, which is at the bottom of the screen of your Menti, so that I know that you're here, right? I'll give another minute for people to join. You just need to go to menti.com and enter the code 87099219. Yeah. Okay. I hope you're all there. Okay, Jaisima, you have raised your hand. Maybe you can unmute and ask the question.
No, I'm just on the menti.com.
Okay, super.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Then let's get started. So you can give a quick name for yourself for the quiz, right? Awesome. 38 players, 39 players, 40. Amazing. So those of you who are not yet there, this is the last chance before the quiz starts, right? So let's see how much you guys have understood or how effective my presentation was by going through a quick set of 9 questions, right? So it's a short one. Hopefully we'll finish it soon, right? All right, let's get started. So obviously, if you answer fast, you'll get more points, right? So first one is a simple one. What is BTP, right? So you have about 15 seconds to answer this question. Is it a technology stack for SAP? Is this an innovation platform for customers? Is it an innovation platform for partners? Is it a cloud infrastructure for SAP customers? All right, 40 of you have answered. Perfect. So obviously, it's the multiple answers which are correct, right? It's a technology stack for SAP, which means that we use it as part of our development. So 10,000 developers behind me in this building are all using BTP to actually develop on a day-to-day basis, right? So that's an important aspect which I did not mention prominently before. Of course, it's an innovation platform for you as a customer, and it's also an innovation platform for our partners, because partners build enormous amount of use cases on top of BTP, whether they are industry cloud applications or apps that they would like to sell, and so on and so forth. So it's also an innovation platform for the partners. It's not really a cloud infrastructure per se. So when we say infrastructure, we are then talking about our hyperscaler partners like Azure, GCP, etc. So it's not a cloud infrastructure for our customers. So BTP is more business-centered technology platform. Yeah. So let's go to the next one. Let's see who of you have actually answered the fastest. Let's see the leaderboard. So we have Millie. You are currently leading. Congratulations. And then we have 8 more questions for all of you to catch up as well. All right. Next question. What are the key value drivers for BTP, right? Why should you build on BTP, right? So you have about 15 seconds to answer. 20 of you have answered, 25, 27, 35. Mind you, there are multiple answers which are correct. You can pick either one of them. All right, perfect. So the two key value drivers that at least what I talked about are time to market, meaning the time it takes to actually develop something when the business asks for something till the time it is delivered, and then the overall operational excellence topic, right? Sustainability is not really a value driver of BTP, right? Although you could build a lot of sustainability-based applications on BTP. And then customer experience is not really a value driver, but it's an outcome that you can get as well in terms of building cool apps very easily on top of BTP as well, right? So time to market and operational excellence are the key ones, at least what I talked about. I mean, customer experience, you can also argue it's correct, but what I talked about today are time to market and operational excellence. Good. Then let's move on to the next question quickly. Which one of the following is a service on top of BTP? I didn't go into the service catalog. I didn't talk about a lot of them, but there is a couple of them which I talked about. So I want you to identify the service and not the area. Yeah. So that's the key topic here. Right. So we talked about various technology areas, right? So essentially, SAP Build Apps is the service that I talked about, right? So of course, all the others are different technology areas, right? Just to clarify, application development is a technology area. where you have lots of different services. Data analytics is a technology area where we have Analytics Cloud, HANA Cloud, and a lot of other things. AI is a technology area, and integration is a technology area as well. But the service that I was looking for is Build Apps. I know it's a little bit of a tricky one, but I'm glad 14 of you have got it correct. So then the next question. Ready? If BTP were a person, who would it be? It's a little bit tricky to read. Is it Christian, who has a BTech and Masters, MS, and MBA? Is it Mark, who's an MBA in Business Analytics? Is it Satya with a BTech, MS, and Data Science, or Sundar with BTech and Computer Science? This should be an easy one coming from SAP. There are a lot of Satya Nadella fans. I think there are 23 of them. I was looking for Christian, obviously. Basically, what I wanted to drive as a point here is that it's a technology platform with an MBA degree, right? So there's a lot of business context behind it. We are talking about business content. We're talking about how to improve business processes, how to work with business applications like S/4HANA, etc. So that's kind of the message to say that the B in BTP, it's a technology platform with a lot of business context behind. Yeah. Good. Let's look at quickly the leaderboard. If Millie is still leading on this particular question, I think Jay got it right, and Abhi, etc. All right. So the fastest is Jay now. I don't know where Millie went. Millie, please buck up. We still have a chance. Couple more questions. And thank you, Abhi, MGR, Maverick, Sid, etc., etc. Thank you very much. Good. Last couple of questions. Let's see. What is not a capability of BTP? This is also a tricky one, maybe. Integration Suite, Build Process Automation, Analytics Cloud, SAP Business Warehouse, SAP DataSphere. Maybe not so difficult. All right. So that's obviously SAP BW, right? Which is an on-prem component and not really part of SAP BTP, right? It's a simple one. Good. Let's look at the last couple of them. Should be easier. Where can you find all technical information about SAP BTP? Good. There are multiple answers, but I'm looking for one, right? A lot of them are answering pretty quickly. Everyone has voted, wow, before the end of time. I hope everyone gets correct. Okay, so that's Discovery Center, obviously, right? So I showed a demo of that as well. Of course, you can also get information on sap.com. I'm not denying that, but I think for BTP, the one-stop shop is SAP Discovery Center, right? And I think it's important that all of you check it out after this session. All right. Before the last question, one quick leaderboard. I think Jay is still leading. Yes. And then we have some movement on the leaderboard. Let's see. A couple more questions, I think. Good. Let me make it fast. I think we only have a couple of minutes left in our session. What business content is available on top of BTP? I think this is also an important aspect of BTP, the B in BTP, all the ready-made content that we have available, right? So that you can accelerate your app building or your technology use cases, right? So there's a lot of them available. Fantastic. I think I'm really happy with the answer. I mean, we don't have any ready-made tables available, but everything else is correct. We have integration packages, bots, APIs, and analytics packages, right? Good. I think I will skip the leaderboard in the interest of time. Good. Let's go to the last question here. How can you use SAP in the SAP S/4HANA project, right? And I think we talked about this cloud transformation in terms of where BTP plays a role in actually accelerating your S/4HANA project, whether it is in unified data analytics or developing extension apps or integrating S/4HANA to any application or to do S/4HANA backup and restore. Perfect. So I think, I mean, backup and restore is not really a topic of BTP, although you could do some automation of backup and restore, but that's not really what we would use BTP for, but all the other things are correct. Good. I think the question 9 of 9, the last question of the day, what use cases can you build with SAP BTP, right? Let's see if you can think of some ideas, and then could also be a good indication of where you're all looking at in terms of building on top of BTP. Perfect. I think we are done. All right, all answers are correct, right? You can do all of that with BTP, right? Whether you are building apps integrated with OpenAI or predictive analytics, extension of S/4HANA, building complex cloud native applications, or a simple mobile application on iOS, right? So all of them are correct. And hopefully all of you who have participated will build these use cases soon, right, on BTP, and we are there to help you out over there as well. So let's see the final leaderboard. I'm guessing it is pretty close. And who would that be? Wow, so that's going to be Jay. Congratulations, right? Thank you for participating. Hopefully that will help you. So a quick feedback before you leave. Maybe a quick, if you have, what words come to mind when you look at BTP, you can type in some words there so that we get to see what you have understood. All in all tool. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Any other ideas? Or it's innovative. Thank you. More responses. Just one more minute and then we are done with this session. Just bear with me. Innovative. Swiss knife. I like that. I'm going to use that. Thank you. Swiss knife. So speed, disruptive, great user experience. Thank you. Thank you. Innovative seems to be the most prominent one, which is what we are hoping for also. It's an innovation platform on top of SAP, one-stop shop, contemporary, limitless, disruptive, innovation, etc. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Good. What area of BTP do you find most useful for you in your organization right now? Is it application development, analytics and planning, integration, AI, app development, more pro code like, or process automation or RPA, right? Any ideas? So no, wow, integration has taken over AI. I'm really glad to see that. Process automation, integration, analytics and planning, app development. AI is sixth, which is a bit surprising, but important that business currently needs to run. There are still more inefficiencies that we can build with process automation. So no surprise that we have our process automation as the most important area for you. Good, quick feedback for us on the session, on the content delivery, on how relevant it is for you, how excited you are with BTP. I think we would like to see that. Thank you for all the feedback. Awesome. Thank you very much. That's all I had today. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next week with another session on the art of the possible, where my colleague will take you through a bunch of use cases and usage patterns in how you can use BTP in your organization. Yeah.
Thanks, Rajeev. If you're looking for inspiration and if you're looking for examples of where and how you can use BTP, next week, Friday, 9:30 is a good time for you to block and join us. The entire 90 minutes is going to be about use cases and how you can actually build or integrate or analyze data that you already have in your organization. So until next Friday, 9:30, this is me, Mukesh Gupta, signing off. Talk to you guys next.